Greetings and felicitations, clobberers all across the universe. It is so great to be back here. Had skipped last week, but there were 5 weeks in December, so this will be week 4 of our Clobby'S Comics Corner Spinner Time Machine. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas and are looking forward to a happy New Year. And we'll get right to it. There won't be a quick bits segment this week. I'll just include that with this one, because it was just running very late with this video, of course, and I apologize for that. For those who do not know, if you may have just joined us or just stumbled across this video, Clobby'S Comics Corner Spinner Time Machine basic premise is I dip back in my TARDIS that is in the chameleon circuit shape of a early 1970s spinner rack, and I go back to my comic shop that I went back in time to open, called Clobby'S Comics Corner. And I was a very young lad back then, of course, but I choose from all the comics that come out that month. Each week I choose anywhere from 8 to 10 titles for my pull list, if you will, at Clobby'S Comics Corner. Mixing my 7-year-old sensibilities as a comic book lover with my 50 years later sensibilities as a comic book lover, who and I make my choices that way. They're very fanboy geekish. And then, of course, in my quick mix segments, I usually do a little recap of the ones that did not make the cut today. I'm going to do it all together, but I'll start out with the comics that I've already chosen this month. This month, of course, is what a big month for comics it was in 1971 December. Week 1, I actually bought a magazine. I bought a mag. I'm going to flash through the other weeks quickly so we can get to this week 4, because you've already seen the other ones. But that's basically, what we did for week 1. Hang on a second. A lot of good stuff. I won't mention them here because, again, I've already have videos on all these. I'm just recapping. Let's see here. Week 2. I love me some Bronze Age, folks. Can't lie. Love it. And that was some great stuff. I just in love with the Bronze Age. That was week 2. For week 3, we have, and you can tell, look, I'm a fanboy. I love superheroes and science fiction, fantasy type stuff, and it will reflect that. But don't get worried. The quick mix segments always give. There was a huge thriving comic book industry, and I always give a little bit of love to some of the other stuff out there in the industry, of course. That was week 3, and quick bits week 3. And now on to week 4 to finish up not only December, but 2021/1971. So let's see what picks, and there's not as many this week as there were last week, but that's okay. We've got Green Lantern number 88. Yes, indeed. This is it was on a lot of your DCs this month, I guess, because it was December. I'm not sure exactly what the deal was back then. I've looked into it a little bit. Were a bunch of 52-page reprint for them. I mean, there were new stories in a lot of them, of course, but I'm saying a lot of them were filled with reprints. This one here, Green Lantern 88, sports reprints. First story, of course, John Broome, Gil Kane, the great Gil Kane, Joe Giella. Messed that one up a little bit with the GJ there, but I love the great Gil Kane. I just can't speak today. I apologize. Second story is an unpublished Golden Age story from, Green Lantern number 39, and I mean probably volume 1, the Golden Age Green Lantern number 1. This is actually volume 2 of Green Lantern that we're in right now at this point. No writer credit to be found. Carmen Infantino, Bernard Sachs on the art. Story 3 is a reprint from GL, volume 2, this one. Number 10 by, again, of course, that great John Broome and Gil Kane team, with inks by the extraordinary Murphy Anderson. And it sports a nifty Neil Adams cover with some little Golden Age cover added to it, which I think is pretty nice. Great to see Alan Scott on there with Hal. And so, what a phenomenal Joe Kubert cover here, one of the masters, of course. And you have Our Army at War 242 featuring Sergeant Rock. And you have a bunch of reprints from various comics like G.I. Combat, Captain Storm, G.I. Storm, All American Men of War, Our Fighting Forces, G.I. Combat again, Our Army at War. By stories by various war writing luminaries as Robert Kanigher and DC Bob Haney, to be continued on Bob Haney. Well, we're going to have some stories about him. John Reed, and of course, art by some other luminaries. Of course, the great Joe Kubert, Irv Novick, Mort Drucker. Yes, that Mort Drucker. Jerry Grandetti, sorry. The great Russ Heath, Ross Andrew. All right. And Mike Esposito with as I've said, the aforementioned extraordinary Joe Kubert, master of comic book art, Joe Kubert cover. And a little gold key action there. Shout out to my wonderful first officer, Raquel. She digs these gold key covers. Can't blame her. Ripley's, believe it or not, number 31. Stories. It was some of these gold keys are very difficult to research. They don't have credits. I don't have this comic in my possession either, but rarely did they put, credits properly, at least like the big companies used to do and stuff. So don't know who did the writing. Could have been anyone, but some of the artists by Luis Dominguez and Joe Cerda, Oscar Novell, and of course Jack Sparling, who I've seen around, of course. And this is a cover, as far as we can tell, by the great gold key cover artist George Wilson. Superboy number 182. I have this one. I think I have this one. I hate when I say that and then I backtrack. Go, or did I just see? I've seen all these covers, dealing with them in comic shops and stuff, and other various ways. I've seen so many covers that sometimes, if it's an older one, I'll forget. Did I buy that? Did I have it in my collection? Or did I want it in my collection and saw the cover somewhere? It's fuzzy, but I have a pretty decent, still to this day, a decent run of Superboy. Man. Okay, I can't commit to whether having this or not, but I do know that the story was by Leo Dorfman, who both stories, first two stories are, who wrote some comics and wrote some some filmation animation and stuff way back when, with some art. There's a reprint story, of course, number 3, by the art. Oh, I'm sorry, the art in the first two stories, Bob Brown and the great Murphy Anderson, with a reprint by Jerry Siegel and Al Plastino in the back. This is a very interesting story. I won't go into it, but it's just one of those. I really, when I revisited the premise of the story, I thought Bob Haney for sure. It is so wackadoodle. This you just got to see. In fact, I have not read it yet again in a long time, but I was reading about the premise. I'm going to go back and read this one. Maybe I'll do a video on it because it's loopy. It's very Bob Haney. And expect a Bob Haney video coming. That's a spoiler alert soon here. Okay. Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, number 119. Story and art, Robert Kanigher, Werner Roth, and Vince Coletta are the creative team. Owns the first story reprint of the second story reprint, Sensation Comics 85. No writer listed. Bob Oxner, Bernard Sachs. Story 3, Robert Kanigher, Rutch Buckler, Dick Giordano. And that's the back story. I believe that's the story in the back of Rose and Thorn, which used to appear in the back of Lois Lane. I love this cover. They always had to make really dumb, dramatic covers for Lois Lane. In this case, for once, he's not doing something to her, but Superman, my sister Lucy, her parachute won't open, and I can't possibly get there in time. What can I do? Well, you're Superman. What do you mean you can't get there in time? You can travel at invisible super speed. Remember, was it Carrie? I don't know if it was Carrie Bates who came with that term. I can fly at such speeds that I'm invisible. And I used to make the joke. I used to always run around saying, I did that. I just did it at an invisible super speed. If you're going to stand around there, maybe you just don't like Lucy. I know you don't like Lois. But Jesus Christ, Superman. I need a better excuse for you to, what are you? A couple 1,000 feet? You could fly around the world. Dude. Anyway, that's why I love these stupid Lois Lane covers. Action Comics 409. Call down Clark, I'll protect you. No, you can't. My killer's here. The one person, not even you, can stop Superman. I won't tell you who it is, folks. Again, another big 52-page. A lot of these big 52-pagers for DC this month, of course, as I said. This was where we're into the Cary Bates, Kurt Swan, Murphy Anderson era. I love that era. The Cary Bates gimmick writer. Yes, he was a gimmick writer. I liked him, though, especially he was in this and he was on Flash. Good old Cary Bates. That wasn't an insult to Cary Bates, by the way. He probably would take that as such. I don't mean that to be. But fair enough. If he did, I guess I could understand it. So I'm sorry, Cary. I love your work, and I wish you were doing comics now. Story 2 was a reprint from Teen Titans number 4. Bob Haney. Bob. We're going to have a talk, Bob, even though he's no longer with us. Earth B story, apparently. Earth B for Bob Haney. I'll explain one day. Nick Cardy art, of course, so you can't go wrong there. And story 3, though, is it's a Bates story with George Tuska. Shout out to D-Bud Buddy. But Tuska inked by Murphy Anderson. I can see where that probably looks pretty good. I've not seen this comic in a long time, mind you, but there you go. Great Nick Cardy cover, because Nick Cardy's great. Adventure Comics 415, starring Supergirl. Story and art, Joe Albano, creator of Jonah Hex, doing Supergirl stories. Yes, it's true. Win Mortimer, Bob Oxner, a couple old timers on the art. Story 2, reprint of Strange Adventures 190. Dave Wood, Carmen Infantino, Joe Russos, the team on that one. Story 3, Lin Wein, Bob Oxner. Story 4, Lin Wein, Gray Morrow, the great Gray Morrow, love him. And interestingly enough, I'm really skeptical and dubious about this cover being by Bob Oxner. It's a pretty good cover. I'm not the biggest Oxner guy, but I guess he did it. Let's give him the credit. My research shows that he did it. Of course, by the way, the Zatanna story by Gray Morrow, again, a must. And you got an Animal Man story in there. But this is a good Oxner cover, so good on him. And finally, Detective Comics, number 420. Story and art by Frank Robbins. I say again, Frank Robbins. And, he was a writer on Batman a bit, and he was an artist who'd been around a long time. I was not a fan of his 70s art. But, there you go. What are you going to do? Story 2, he wrote the second story with Don Heck. Don Heck Batman, folks. Don Heck on Batman. You think of him as a Marvel artist until later when he went to DC in the 70s. But I would have thought this would have been a bit early for a Don Heck art on a DC comic. But what are you going to do? Otto Bender, Joe Serta on Story 3, Detective Comics number. Oh, man, I can't even read the number. My own damn number I wrote, 215 or whatever. Anyway, that's a reprint. Story art 3 by Mort Meskin. And, of course, it sports a nifty Neil Adams, Dick Giordano cover. And that about wraps it up for that. What we will do now, that's week 4. Again, usually I do a second video for quick bits. I'm going to quickly do the quick bits. And next year we'll start afresh where I'll do that probably. I don't know. I might just combine them all and not just do the one video starting next year. I'm not sure. Then I'll just do other videos. But I might keep splitting them up. I don't know. But the quick bits, again, as I said, everyone, that is a chance to give a little bit of love to the comics that I did not choose this week. And they start with Roadrunner. If it catches you through. Meep, meep. Poor little Roadrunner never bothers anyone. And that old coyote is a crazy clown. And that's a Gold Key Roadrunner comic. Roadrunner number 28. And then we have DC and more of those love comics. Heartthrobs by DC Comics. Number 138. It looks like I bet that's a Nick Cardy cover. Let's find out. Maybe it isn't. I don't say. I'm going to say Cardy, but I don't know. It could be. I'm not even going to speculate. How about that? Let's just leave it at that. I'm not going to research it anyway. But there you go. You have that, and you have, again, more Gold Key. Smokey, only you could read Gold Key comics. Smokey the Bear. DC Comics Unexpected 132 is a horror comic. Walt Disney's Comics and Stories, 377 from of course, Gold Key. More Gold Key with Yosemite Sam. All these media tie-in comics. Archie's comics, Betty and Veronica. Actually, Archie's girls, Betty and Veronica. Not Betty and Veronica. Betty and Veronica. That's a different. No, I'm just kidding. Archie's Joke Book magazine. Girl Love Stories, DC. I'm not judging. I'm just laughing. Okay, it's not funny, but And Pep Comics from Archie, and then of course a Warren magazine. For those of you out there who want to see a Warren magazine, these creepy covers used to creep me out when I would, obviously they weren't on the spinner rack; they were too big. But you go to the drugstore with your mother or whatever, and they had a lot more comics on that magazine rack, including the Warren comics. Spooky. And so there you go. And again, this of course is a site for those who wonder. This is where I find out my info each month of the new comics that came out. You can search them to the day they were on sale, rather than the cover date, which is always a couple of months after that. The day they go on sale. They're predated on the covers, in other words. And you can look at all the comics that came out, whatever month, year you choose, in various different searches you like to do. And here's, again, just to give you an idea what a big comic book industry it was, how, it was aimed at younger people. Sorry, this is the way it is. Not kids always. You had your horror mags and stuff like that, but it was aimed at a fairly wide age group audience, because you had your Warren mags and your war mags and your Western mags as well. But there was a little something for everyone back then when it comes to this wonderful art form of comic books that I love so much. And this site is Mike's Amazing World. Go to the newsstand feature on that. There's a link in my description below. There's also a link in my description below to many other, my playlist for these videos, for one, and many other wonderful YouTubers that you could take a look at and follow. So I want to thank you all for joining me here today for this video. And next year I'll start afresh, and we'll go 1972 of week 1 of the comic books available on Clobby'S Comics Corner Spinner Rack Time Machine. As always, thank you all so much, my clobberers. You have been fantastic. I love you all. You're extraordinary. So many wonderful people make this channel worthwhile for me. All of you do. I want to wish you all a very happy new year, and a big shout out, as always, to my wonderful first officer, R.M. Raquel Briggs, who has just been such a wonder. This channel would be nothing without her, and she made this spiffy intro outro for me. And it's a big shout out to the great Mark D with a C, who does so much and hangs out with me all the time. A big shout out to him when we stream and stuff like that, and he helps me with all kinds of other stuff. And the occasional wonderful talk show, show host, Purple Valkyrie. I love you, Purple. Thank you for being such a wonderful friend. Great shout out to Paulie at Latino Slant, another friend I made over here. The great Stone Loki, who has made my intros and outros for me and things like that, and has reviewed animation with me and had me on his channel many times, and has hung out with me over here many times. And just look, there's so many. The problem is, if you mention a few, you got to mention them all. Well, you're all wonderful and special to me. I hope you all have a wonderful New Year's. And I just want, New Year's, and of course, celebration, and of course, a wonderful 2022. And a big, big shout out, because this segment is about comic books. I'll take just a couple of seconds to say we love and miss our dear friend Mark Steven Chure, who, we do these comics things because we love them, and we do it in honor of him, because Mark loved comics, and I loved doing shows with him talking about comics. He'd become a close friend in a short time that we did shows together, and we lost him way too soon. He was taken from us, and it's not fair, and it's horrible, and we miss him around here, and he will always be missed. And I dedicate this video and all of my comics videos, whether it's my streaming on Monday nights, Mark C Comic Talk, or anything else I ever do of comics, Spinner Rack Time Machine, or whatever, quick bits, my comics history videos, and I've done a few of those you can find in the playlist. I dedicate them all to the great Mark C, known to his family, and of course as Steven, Mark Steven Chure, full name. We miss you, buddy. We miss you. And I'll play this, and I'll play a little thing that my great the great Mark D with the C gave me, and then I'll play the end credits and get out of here. Thank you so much.
Briscoe, Bowler, I hope to see you in action again soon.
Count on it. Well, maybe after a brief hiatus.